Welcome. In today's tutorial, we're going to discuss adding an employee to ATA. For those of you that have the HR module, when you go to add a new employee, and I'm just simply clicking on one to edit because it's a little bit quicker, but whether you're adding or editing, down at the bottom under the integration PrimeNet is going to be a default profile. And typically it's going to be blank until you select one. When you select one of these profiles, it's going to, when you save changes, it's going to send the employee to time, and it's going to attach all of the policies that is attached to the default profile that you have selected. Things like overtime, e-time clock, mobile app, time zone, all those little bits and pieces that are selected in this default profile are what's going to be attached to that employee when they are transferred also to time. This only really works once. In other words, I couldn't come back here and select nursing and then click yes and expect the nursing policies to be attached. But each time you save an employee, whether you're changing their name, their department, or things like that, it checks to make sure that one of these was attached in case it's needed when it sends those changes across. So that's important here. And once you save changes, you're going to go across, record saved successfully, you're not going to get an error. So that's how you need to add an employee into HR in order for them to also be added to time. Now, if you're not using HR, you can add employees from the employee and employee details. You'll notice here I've got default profiles, and these are not readily available on other admin roles. So if you need a new default profile, then support will need to add that in for you until the work groups are integrated into the HR. If you're not using HR again, you don't even need to worry about these. You're going to have the work groups, and even if you are using HR, having work groups is like default profiles on steroids. Default profile only works once. The work groups, you can go in and change things in specific work groups and apply them, and that will update all the employees assigned to that work group. So a really good feature here as far as that goes. You know, I can come in here and edit something and say, well, maybe the mobile profile for all of these employees is now this one. Maybe they're all on test rounding, and then I can just save that and click OK. If the employees have been bound to this work group, it will change that for every employee that is assigned to this work group. Now, if you want to come in here and create work groups and then assign employees, again, you can click on this and then click filter. All of the employees will be down here. You could even use maybe department, whatever, and then filter, and people in that department will only be displayed. So that's how these things up here work, trying to filter the employees down to get exactly who you want. So you just click here for all of the employees, or you can click the card ID to select all of them, and then click confirm, and then click OK. And that is going to assign those employees to the work group. Now, when you're adding a brand new employee, you go to the employee details. Over here to the right is the plus. We click on this, and we've got different tabs up here, and you can see I've got triangles on these because it's got required info in them. Emergency, home levels, department, job, step, task. Position and skills are primarily for the scheduler, the dynamic scheduler. If you're not using that, then none of this is necessary. There's a spot in your configuration to set the skills and things like that up for the dynamic scheduler, and they would then appear here. But for most people, that doesn't matter and it's not necessary. You're going to start off when you add a new one with the personal information, but here's that work groups right at the very top. We want to click on new employee, and then we want to apply the work group rules. We want to come down here and add a card ID, their payroll ID under here, under other ID, possibly a PIN if they are required to enter a PIN on any of the apps or clocks when they're clocking in or out. And that can be whatever you want. This can be, in reality, whatever you want. It just can't match any other employees. This one has to be identical to their ID and payroll. Then their first name, middle initials if you want, and last name. Now, we need a hire date. And we'll just use July 1st. You'll notice my triangles went away. And the reason I needed a hire date was because he was on a holiday plan, and likely that holiday plan requires 90 days before they're eligible for holiday. But you can see all these things that were automatically added. This was done when I chose the work group and applied the work group rules. It brought all of this in for me. I don't have to mess with it. If you want to put an emergency contact, that's fine. If you want to then go in and make sure they're on specific departments or jobs. I don't have any departments set up apparently. Nothing here and nothing here. I'm just typing to see if it brings anything up. So right now we could save this, but the work group, again, I said it was like the default profile on steroids. And if we bind this work group, then that means once this employee is bound to it, these would all be locked. And I'll say lock all, bind the work group, okay, and then save. This is going to save the employee. It's going to save them to, or bind them to this work group. So that leads back to where I was talking about in the work groups. If I come in here to his work group and change something up and then save it, that would also change that for every employee that is bound to this work group. So two different things going on. There's applying the work group rules, and then there's binding. Applying means I'm just going to set all the rules that are in this work group in here. If I'm binding them and click OK, then when I look over here on my payroll, everything is black. I do have an issue with this right now. Again, that's because I don't have a hire date. There's also this here. That goes away when I input the hire date. So that's what we're looking at with the new way of putting employees in and being able to utilize these work groups. You don't have to utilize them as binding or anything like that, but it is a lot quicker to use the work group and apply the work group rules and just add a little bit more information than it is to have to come in and make sure you've got each thing selected manually when you're adding the employee in. So hopefully this helps in adding the new employees. If you run into any problems or have any questions, please contact your support. Thank you.